What's up, guys? I just got back to the hotel after a really long round two. It was almost 4 hours. It was about 3 hours and 45 minutes for the game. And before I get into that, I just want to mention I did talk to the tournament director and I asked him, what's the deal with the notation pad thing? Because I'm just curious. And I guess the reason is if you use like the book, you can have previous games in there, or you can write stuff down, and if you flip to it, you can cheat that way. And so they only want you to have one piece of paper. So that's the reasoning. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know. Let's go ahead and jump right into this game. So International Master Aaron Grabinski, he's 2495, so just shy of 2500. I was glad that I was white because I just feel like my openings are a little bit better with white, and so I feel like I get into more decent positions as white than with black. So let's take a look. I played, sorry, one second. Okay, played e4, and he went for the French. And I used to really hate playing against the French. I didn't really have like a system that I would always go for. I had this knight c3, bishop b4, queen d3 line that I would play occasionally, but they don't have to actually play bishop b4. There's a lot of other things black can do. So that's one thing. And then even the queen d3 lines, I don't know, I just didn't really like them. So recently I've been experimenting with this other system. So I'll show you that. It's the advance. And the reason you would play this way is to gain space. You're kind of keeping black's position somewhat cramped, and this bishop tends to be a bad bishop for most of the game. And so that's kind of the, the advantage that you get with white. So I went for that line, c5, c3. This is pretty standard. The way that black gets counterplay is, first of all, by attacking on d4. Usually the knight comes out, the queen comes out, and then a lot of times at some point later in the game, f6 to attack that way. Okay, so knight f3 to defend, bishop d7, pretty common move. A lot of times they'll play queen b6 first and then bishop d7, but okay. Bishop d3. So this is the system that I've been experimenting with lately. I'm not an expert on it by any means, but I know a little bit of ideas. So queen b6, and here I thought that this was, I don't want to say mistake, but like maybe the wrong order. Like I thought you were supposed to trade the pawn first, because now it allows me to capture, which from what I know is actually pretty good for white, or at least you get into a decent position. And I was expecting this, and then I was just going to castle, defend the pawn this way. And what ends up happening is black actually kind of loses some time, because you can play like b4, bishop e3, both of those moves with tempo, and you kind of get quick development, and black just wastes a lot of time. So that's what I was expecting. And here Aaron played queen c7, and the idea is he's just saying, you know what, I'm not even going to worry about that at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and take this pawn, or at least that's what I thought the idea was. And I thought for a while and decided, you know what, I'm going to just castle. I'm going to let him take it. And what I calculated was castles, takes. I was going to play bishop f4. Let him take here. I have the attack on the queen, and then queen takes c5. So I'm losing a pawn. But now I'm castled. I've got, these three pieces ready to go. Black only has two, so I felt like, okay, the rook's going to come over. If I can open up the center somehow, I thought that I was going to have some compensation. At least I was ready to give that a shot. But after I castled, he just took on c5. So this is kind of a transposition from the other position. Like he could have taken it immediately, and then I would have castled, and then he could have just played queen c7. He would have the same position. So rook e1, I was just defending the pawn. It was attacked twice, and I just wanted to defend it. This is pretty common. The rook a lot of times in this system goes to e1. Knight here, and I thought, after this move, I thought that this was weird, because what's happening now is this bishop doesn't have a lot of places to go. Like it can't go here because the pawn, it can't go back there now because the knight's blocking it. The pawn is kind of controlling here. And so I thought this was a good moment to play b4. And Engine actually likes this. Let me see. Yeah, Engine really likes this. I think white's doing great here. So bishop b6, and then I played a4. Again, Engine is fine with this. I'm gaining a lot of space, and I'm actually threatening to play a5 and just trap the bishop. So black has to react to this. a5 I don't think is a good move, because now I can play b5. Knight has to move somewhere really awkward because it can't go to any of these squares. So let's just say knight d8, and now my bishop can come to a3, and I felt like this was pretty nice for me. Can probably go to d6. And yeah, I would have been happy to get this position. So of course he played a6 instead, which makes sense. So at this point I have to make a choice on how do I develop these pieces. So I've castled. I have this rook in a good spot. This is in a good spot. This is in a good spot. Really, I've gained some space. And really it comes down to these two pieces and where do I want to develop them to. So I decided to go with knight a3, and we're going to come back to this move later. I want you to make a mental note about this knight a3 move, okay? Because I thought at the time that this was going to be a good place for the knight. And my logic was that I thought I was actually creating a threat. So for example, like let's say knight g6 is what I was expecting. I thought I was threatening to play a5, attacking the bishop, forcing it back. Then b5. Okay, he doesn't want to take this way because the knight comes in and it's over for black now. So has to move the knight, and then I was going to play b6 and get a fork. Okay, problem is when the knight moves, he can just take this pawn. And I don't have a fork anymore because he's just going to take it. So that's what I kind of missed until after I played knight a3. And that's when I kind of realized, well, hold on a second. So he did play knight g6, and then I was like, I can't even do my idea. It doesn't work. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But I said, okay, let's go queen e2, just defend the pawn. Okay, so now it's 3 attackers, 3 defenders on this pawn. f6, and okay, so at this point, I thought quite a while, and basically what I was thinking was his king is still in the center. He's getting ready to open up the center. You know, I feel like this is going to be strong if I can just open up some lines, right? Open up some lines, get to the king. And so I said, you know what? I think now is the moment. Let's go ahead and start to make some things happen. So I played a5 to kick the bishop back, and then b5. Now, this was a pawn sacrifice. I knew that he was going to take the pawn here, and I was going to lose that. But I was thinking, by doing that, I'm bringing the knight away from the center, and I'm going to start opening up some lines. And I think Engine actually likes this idea somewhat. So here, I traded to open up this, and then I brought the knight to d4. Now, yeah, in my mind, this was a really tough position. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was having a hard time figuring out what my plan should be. You know, there's, first of all, like one idea is to just take here, just to do something like this and maybe play like knight b5. I wasn't really sure what was happening. I did feel like he was probably going to be able to maybe castle or move the king somewhere. And I wasn't sure like if this was good or not. So that was one idea though. The other idea was, you know, potentially trading here and then trying to see if I can attack some weaknesses. So like, for example, takes, and then something like queen d3, you know, to like line up here. Wasn't really sure if that was going to turn out well because like a move like king f7 just kind of defends everything. So I wasn't really sure how to proceed. And then I got this idea of playing knight to d4. And I said, okay, if I play knight to d4, he's probably going to try to play e5. But if he does play e5, maybe I can play bishop f5. Bishop can come in. This is pinned. And so I'm thinking about, okay, knight e6 looks pretty good. Maybe even just trading. And then the king looks like it's going to be kind of bare. That was at least my idea. So I played knight d4. I wasn't entirely sure, you know, if this was the best plan. Engine doesn't hate it, but it really likes bishop h6. Just to kind of prevent him from castling and develop the bishop, which kind of makes sense. So anyway, knight d4, he just took it pretty quickly and then played knight to b3. And so now I have my rook under attack. And I really was thinking at this moment to just leave the rook. I was like, this seems like a good time to just go for the king. So I was thinking of queen g4, queen h5. So for example, something like this. Let him take the rook, take here with check. He doesn't want to take here, because now my queen comes in and I think I'm just winning. Because, for example, if the king goes here or here, I'm going to take here with check and also hit the rook. And if the king goes here, I have check. Again, the rook's going to be hanging if he blocks this guy. So it has to go here. And now I have bishop f4 check. And it's actually, yeah, it's actually mate in a couple moves. Has to block and then queen takes his mate. So that was one idea. So what that means is when I take here check, he can't take. He's got to move his king. So like, let's say king e7. And then I was thinking about just bringing my bishop back. And I actually missed the idea. I was thinking of something like bishop d3, which turns out to not be as great for me. But bishop h5 is actually a better way to do it. And now after something like the rook comes over, I can come back here. And this knight is actually trapped because my queen is covering the escape squares for the knight. And I have, so if I can win that, then I have, you know, a knight and a bishop for a rook, which is pretty nice. And his king is kind of precarious because this bishop's going to be very strong, right, on the dark squares. Black doesn't really have a way to counter this bishop. So Engine actually likes that. It says I was going to be great. And so I probably should have went with this move. Why did I not play that? I think I was afraid of, let's see. I was afraid of queen g4. I think maybe king f7. I thought he didn't have to take it right away. You could just play king f7. And then I was like, I don't really know what to do. I don't know if I want my queen sitting on g4 after king f7. Yeah, I think that's why. And Engine actually does like king f7 as a good move. So because of that, now I talked to him after the game, and I think he said he was going to probably take the rook, but maybe he would have, you know, looked a little more carefully and maybe not taken it. I don't know. But anyway, after all that, I decided, you know what, let me just play rook b1. And my idea was that if he takes here, I have queen g4. And now I'm hitting the knight, and I'm also hitting this knight twice, right? And so this is really good for me. I didn't see a way for him out of this, and Engine agrees. So he played the best move, knight takes c1. Okay, so he's got to move the queen somewhere, and he plays queen to d6. And this is a nice move because, first of all, my knight's being attacked. Also, it's kind of defending things in the center, and it's controlling this square for knight to f4. And even, you know, in some cases, if I were to take here, the queen's actually threatening on h2. So really good square for his queen. And I played rook to c3. I wanted to defend the knight, and I didn't really know what else to do. Like, if I go here, it just seemed weird blocking my rook. You know, I didn't even know like where the knight was going. Maybe it's going to go here, but knight f4 is coming, and it just didn't seem active enough. So I played rook c3 to defend it, but also I was thinking maybe this rook can get involved over here. Okay, so knight f4, queen f3, and this knight was so strong. I mean, it's just controlling all kinds of things. Really, really annoying knight. So queen f3, and he castles. Now, when he castled, I was like not even considering this. I didn't think that castling was an option for him. I really didn't. I thought, no way. It's completely open. My rook is here. My bishop is here. My queen is here. Surely there must be something, right? And then he goes and castles. I'm like, okay. So I started thinking, and I came up with a really nice idea. And my idea was, I'm going to go queen g4 check, and he's probably going to run in the corner. Now, he could also run here, but I'm expecting he runs to the corner with the idea of then bringing the rook over, and no, seems like black might get some nice pressure on g2. My plan was this: queen g4, king here. I was going to sacrifice my bishop, and the point is that, let's just say, for example, he takes it. I can play rook to g3, and what I'm doing is creating a double battery to cut off the king, and I'm just threatening the simple queen h4 checkmate. Well, you know, the knight can block and then checkmate. And he actually doesn't have any good moves. The only way that stops mate is to go here, check, and just sacrifice his knight. But I'm happy with that, right? Because his king is still kind of stuck here. So that was my plan. And then if he didn't take it, and he did something like e5, I was thinking, to chase my queen away, I would go over to h4, and check this out. If the knight comes in for the fork and takes the rook, this is just checkmate. King has to move over to one of these squares, and then the queen comes down, checkmate. So that was my plan, and I was feeling pretty good because I'm like, okay, I don't see, after queen g4, like, I don't see, you know, here, what he's going to do after I play bishop takes h7. So I played queen g4, and he literally was about to play king h8, and I saw him, like, stop and think for a second. And then after, like, 5 more minutes, he plays king f7. And I'm like, well, great. So, and I asked him after the game, and he was like, yeah, he was going to play that. And then he did see the idea with rook g3. So nice find on his part to be able to see that. But I was close. So after king f7, I think black's just slightly better. And I wasn't really sure what to do here. The rook is coming over. There's a knight. There's a rook. It's not looking good. So I played g3 because I'm like, I got to stop the, you know, the pressure on the g file. And at some point, I'm going to be able to threaten the knight. Now, not right away, because of course he's going to go there, which he did, pins the pawn, right? So it's not actually threatening the knight. But I was thinking at some point in the future, I'm going to move my king, and then it will be. Now, queen to h4. At this moment in the game, I had, let's see, 15 minutes. Okay, I had 15 minutes left, and we were only on move 25. So I had 15 more moves to make before the time control when I got the extra 30 minutes. So I'm thinking like, okay, 15 minutes for 15 moves means I have a roughly 1 minute per move. And so I didn't want to spend too much time. And so I played queen h4 pretty quickly, thinking this was a good square for the queen. Because I'm like, okay, well, I'm still threatening the knight. If the queen ever moves, I'll take the knight with my queen. I'm also threatening the pawn here. And then if the knight ever moves, I'm, you know, taking this. I have threats here. I'm threatening that. It just seemed like an okay square for me. Totally didn't see his next move. And if you want to pause the video, figure out what do you think black played next. Really strong move, top engine move. I didn't even consider it. Yep, h5. this is like such a good move because it takes away the threat from h7 because now the pawns appear defended by the knight. And the more important thing is there's an immediate threat to trap my queen. The rook is coming here and my queen is just has nowhere to go. Like that's it. That's simple. So as soon as he played h5, I was like, oh boy. And I could tell that things were not going well here. So I have to play f3 or h3, I think, to stop the rook from coming in. I chose f3. Engine likes h3 better. I thought this was weird because there's a knight and a bishop. They're going to be lined up after e5. So like I don't know. And I was, like I said, I was, you know, kind of low on time. So I just played f3 to stop the rook that way. Then he plays top engine move here. Really strong, bringing in the, you know, the last piece. Really, the bishop's kind of not doing much, but other than that, all of black's pieces are really getting involved. So I pretty much have to take this, otherwise I just can't deal with all the threats. This is going to be hanging. So I took it. Bishop had to take. Rook can't take because then the pin on the knight is gone. So bishop has to take, and my knight is under attack. Okay, so I played here. Oh, and my bishop was also under attack, so I had to kind of defend two things. So rook here defends both of those. That's why rook b3. Rook g5, really good move. Again, even though my queen's not trapped in the sense that I'm going to lose my queen immediately, I can't move it anywhere. Like, I can't do anything. This is really, really bad. This was a big mistake, and it just goes to show, like, when your queen gets stuck in a bad square, compare that to his queen, right? Like, look at this. This thing is doing all kinds of cool stuff. My queen's, like, not really doing anything. So anyway, king h1, I thought, okay, let's get out of the pin so that I'm actually threatening to take this. I gotta tell you guys, there was moments in the game where I just wanted to like grab this knight on f4 and like throw it across the room. It was just like, this knight. Unfortunately, you can't do that in chess, but this knight was just a monster. So yeah, engine doesn't like this, and the reason is because of what he played exactly. And basically it goes takes, queen b4. The threat is to come here and either checkmate me or with the bishop, or eventually with the bishop, or just a simple check. King here. Sorry, we'll just show you. Let's just say I play a random move, like, I don't know, queen here. He's going to come in, check, and it's forking these pieces. So that's kind of the main threat. So because of that, I'm like, well, I have to play rook e3. I didn't see anything else to do. He played queen d2, queen f4 to defend my rook, and then he found a nice just trade to go into this endgame. Most of this was pretty much forced, and we end up with this position where I'm just lost. I have 4 pawns against 4 pawns. The problem is his king is right here to immediately start collecting my pawns. So I don't really have 4 pawns. I'm going to lose them, right? Like the only way I can defend this is if I play f4, but then he plays here, and I'm actually going to lose both pawns. So I decided, okay, let's play captures, king here. Now, interesting thing about this endgame, this is the wrong color bishop for this corner. So if I could somehow trade, you know, these 3 pawns and my knight, let's just say, for these 2 pawns, get my king over here in the corner, it would be a draw. The problem is I have no way to do that. His king is super active, and my knight is really misplaced, and there's just no way to accomplish that. Now, if I could, it's a well-known drawn endgame with the rook, bishop, and pawn, so that's why I did play on for a little bit, but there was really nothing I could do. These pawns were just coming down, and we played a few more moves just because I wanted to see what was going to happen, but then I resigned here. This is going to become a queen. I can't stop it. The only thing I can do is trade here, but then, again, it's going to become a queen. Even though I can take, you know, these pawns, this one's gone, and then he wins. So I resigned here. Honestly, I think I played pretty well. I'm happy with this game. I put up a fight. I had some good positions early on. If we go back, there was a couple of key moments that I want to draw your attention to. So number one, right here, when I played knight a3, that knight stayed on a3 for like the whole game, and it was bad. It just didn't do anything. There was like nothing to do with that knight, right? Remember when I said the engine was saying bishop a3? Like, it seems like a small thing, but had I played bishop a3, like, who knows how this game would have gone, right? Then my bishop after b5 was going to be a monster. My knight could have went somewhere else. Instead, the knight was on a3, the bishop on c1, I don't know what it did. And it just goes to show, like, it's super important when you're developing your pieces to really think about the best place for them. So I learned something there. And then also, let's see, the other moment right here. I should have went for it. I think I should have played queen g4. And it was going to get kind of crazy. And maybe I would have had a chance if he took the rook. Now I don't know if I would have played that. He might have thought. I'm surely he would have thought a lot more before he took it. But anyway, rook b1, and then the other moment in the game. Let's see. Even right here, even though it's starting to go black's way, if I don't play queen h4, I think I'm still in this game. Like, I think if I just kind of bring the queen back to f3, maybe just bring my bishop back to f1, I still have a chance. You know, the game is not over. So that would have been much better. I just completely missed the h5 idea. Really nice idea by him. So anyway, tough game, but I had fun, and I think I did best as I could. I have another game in like an hour, so I'm going to go and get ready for that one, and talk to you guys soon. Stay sharp, play smart, take care.